No, I need to get like a sign that says no insults. Fucking annoying. But the debate without banter? What the fuck? That's the whole reason I like to debate. Yeah, Satan is pretty popular. Satan really popular about.
I love working at Eventide because of the people.
cha cha.
More rewards, more savings, more special offers. That's what new Fuel
Hello?
Rewards members get at Chef.
Hello.
Hey, I just want to say, like, just be
Hey,
safe. I'm also a Christian, just like,
are
be
you an
safe.
adult?
Huh?
Are you an adult?
Yes, sir.
When were you born? Yeah, right. How old are you?
I'm 25.
Are you a woman?
No, I was born June 2nd.
Okay, whatever. All right.
I just hope God blesses you. I hope you don't get into, like, any, like, bad arguments with anybody.
All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
And you sound really young. I thought you were like 15. um. Yeah, I get it. I mean, bad arguments. I mean, it's kind of like the problem is people already believe Jesus exists and Jesus is Lord, but they won't admit it. So, and the Bible says people naturally resist God. Whoa, this one's crazy. Proven how? The transcendental argument for God. So, like, to prove anything, you need rules of thinking. And to follow rules, you need a rule enforcer. And only Jesus has the attributes or the perfections to make it so to enforce those rules of thinking that in order that we can prove anything. So Jesus is sort of like the cosmic referee or like the cosmic police that enforces the rules of thought. And if you deny that, you're going to have to tell me what enforces the rules of thought that isn't Jesus. But inevitably, you're going to have to lie because only is Jesus is the only thing we can identify and defend that enforces rules of thought. Who says the argument? When we look at like the type of attributes logic has, logic is universal, immaterial, unchanging, eternal. So we need something with those properties to make it real. Because logic can't make logic true. So what makes logic true? Well, only Jesus can make logic true because Jesus is immaterial, universal, unchanging, and eternal. So we need something with those properties that's similar to logic to make logic real. Because if you don't have the properties of logic, how can you be the source of logic? You have to have the same properties. You see what I'm saying? Nah, mean. What do you mean? What is smart about not believing in God? Like, what is it? What is the rationale that there is no God? That's nonsense. And if you don't believe in God, you go to hell. So it's like not only are you intellectually wrong and irrational, but you're also going to hell. Man, it's a double whammy. Good morning, that scoundrel, or good evening, I suppose. Probably still good evening. I like woke up at 1 a.m. Pascal's wager has been disavowed by the church. I didn't give you Pascal's wager. I just said you're going to hell. There's no wager, like because it's true. There's no gamble. Yeah, there's no wager, right? Like because we know the Bible's true. So if you reject the Bible, you go to hell. If you accept what the Bible says and change the way you live your life, then you can be with Jesus in eternal paradise. I don't understand, like, why don't you want to go to eternal paradise? Do I know who Pascal is? Yeah, Pascal is a super genius. I think Pascal is like one of the most intelligent people in human history, recent human history. Genius, mathematical genius. He was disavowed. Well, probably because he was like way smarter than everyone. Jesus was disavowed. Look, everyone thought Jesus was crazy and they persecuted Jesus. So if the world thinks you're crazy and persecutes you, then you're probably onto something. Or there's a chance you're onto something. How is it proven? We would prove it with a transcendental argument, Abby, where we would say that without Jesus, you couldn't make sense of 1 plus 1 equals 2. So denying Jesus is like denying 1 plus 1 equals 2, so it's impossible. Because welcome, neighbor. Jesus, it does prove. It does. Well, you don't understand proof, Abby. It does. It is a proof. The proof for God is that you can't prove anything without Jesus. It is a proof. Welcome, neighbor.
Hi. Okay, I want to ask about number four. I just wanted to hear like you elaborate a little bit more on how abortion is child sacrifice.
Yeah, because you're sacrificing a preborn baby for something like the woman's right to choose. It's a human sacrifice.
So like deciding to you're saying like deciding to proceed with having an abortion is like well who because I feel like sacrifice it's kind of sacrificing to something. So what is aborting a child sacrificing the child to? Like what is
Well, typically the common reason is like the woman's right to choose. So you basically you're just sacrificing the child for your own autonomy. Well,
but it could also benefit the better of the child too, which the
how
child that
how
would
the
have
hell?
been
No, it can't. If you're unalive, that's not good.
well, it could have in the future. Think about it like
What?
this, right? If you okay, imagine if a mother, which happens a ton because there's tons of women that live in poverty, is in poverty. If they give birth to a child, the child is gonna be in poverty. Or if there's a situation where the mom is unfit to parent or doesn't like their financial status isn't good, if they give birth to a child and put that in that scenario, the child in that scenario, it could you could be giving birth to a child who has to deal with child abuse, neglect, rather than just aborting the child, which if a mother has the opportunity to abort a child instead of just giving birth to it and abusing it and neglecting it, wouldn't that be better off to do? Hello?
My bad. I'm muted. So yeah, no, that's bad because like by that logic, we would have to abort everyone because every child suffers. Suffering is unavoidable. We all suffer, but I don't think suffering is such a bad thing, right? Because it molds who we are as people, and it shapes you, and it helps us grow and learn. So I
Well,
think.
of course, struggle is eventually, it's like inevitable, it's gonna happen. But in the same sense, there's some levels of it that are just, it gets to a point and it becomes extreme. Like child abuse, that's not child development, that's conditioning a child to know what it's like to be abused, or just conditioning a
You don't think
child like
you don't think there's
wrong.
any there's adults now who are abused and they overcome that, right? Sure, sure. that is a harder challenge than maybe a lot of people have, but there are people that overcome, and because of that, they're like better people, and then now they're helping other victims.
But it's not always like that. There's a lot of case scenarios where there's
So
people
what?
who are in were were born into poverty and born into
What if?
struggle that weren't able to thrive because of the lack of resource that they had growing up.
Yeah, and what if that child that got aborted would have grown up to cure cancer someday?
There's a ton of people that could have already done that, and that's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
You don't know
Well,
what the possibility.
you don't know the
Exactly.
person you're aborting could have like done a lot of good things in their life. That's my point.
Exactly, and
So
that's the
we
part
shouldn't
of.
be aborting these people.
You could say the same thing for somebody who's killed, for somebody who dies, for somebody who's alive now. They can make any decision they want to that could lead them to doing that, but it's their choice, and just like how it's the mother's choice. Clearly, if the child is aborted, then they weren't gonna cure cancer.
Well, because you aborted them.
Yeah, that's a part of the. Of course, like well, like, of course, if you abort a kid, it's not gonna. You can say, oh, this. What if the kid could have done this? What if they could have done that? Well, of course, always going to be a possibility that they could have done that, but there's also a possibility. Oh my gosh, there's also a possibility that they could have done worse for the world. It's like everybody makes an impact on the world, so you can't just say, just because. You can't just say, oh, well, that person could have done that. That baby could have done that. It's. It doesn't matter what they could have done because they would have, like I said, if majority of the time, and personally, I believe that aborting somebody, or no, aborting like a fetus, it's not always the best decision, especially if you're available to, like, using protection and stuff. I think you should always be conscious before you do decide to lay down and have a kid. However, if you're in a situation where it's better for you and potentially better for the soon or potential baby in the situation, then you, of course, could abort. And I don't think that that's child sacrifice.
I mean, it's just what the reason you're saying that though is because what you're doing is what criminals do is they use a type of they've it's called distancing language, right? So the reality is that it is a ritual human sacrifice, but that sounds you don't like that. That's icky. So you want to call it like, oh, it's an abortion. Oh, it's a medical procedure.
What's
Oh,
your definition
no,
of a ritual?
a ritual. A ritual is just like when you do the same thing over and over again.
What'd
So
you
like
say?
a ritual is when you just like do the same thing over and over and over. So
So, if somebody is getting an abortion, if they get an abortion
um,
once because they end up pregnant in any
I'm gonna
situation,
give you an abortion.
what?
Now you know what it feels like. Welcome, neighbor.
What up?
What would you like?
All
You're an
right,
adult.
let's discuss number 4.
Oh,
First of all, what do you as a man have an opinion on what a woman is doing with their body? Let's start off with that one.
because I'm an abortion survivor, so I feel like I should be able to have an opinion on abortion.
Aren't we all abortion survivors technically? I mean, anyway, second point. It wouldn't be my place to say, "Hey, all men should have vasectomies. Let's put that in government. Let's do that." Cuz that's not right. It also, like, come on. Let's use our brains. So why do you have jurisdiction over women when women can't also have jurisdiction over what men do with their bodies?
I don't want to like have jurisdiction over a woman. I just want like human beings to be treated with dignity, and I think sacrificing a human being to like the woman's right to choose is that's not to me human dignity.
Sorry, what was that last bit?
When you sacrifice a preborn baby to the woman's right to choose, I don't see that as human dignity and treating humans with dignity. I think we should treat humans with dignity.
Okay. Third, technically. All right. So, what are you saying in cases of rape or incest? What about that?
You
Because
can't
that
say
happens all the time.
you can't say those words. And in those, I think we should punish the grapist. We should punish the grapist. The crime. The I think people get out like real easy for grape. There should be a way harsher punishment for grape. Welcome, neighbor.
Which form of Christianity do you think is just proven because there's so many different forms?
I don't focus on the like Christianity to me isn't an institution. It's a person. It's a human being named Jesus Christ. So it's not.
Yeah, but like,
I don't really
there's a
care.
difference. There's
Yeah, but I don't care. I
Catholics,
don't
there's
care. Yeah,
Orthodox.
but I don't care.
Orthodox has like
I don't,
5 more
I
books
don't
than
care.
Catholic.
Yeah, I don't care. There's institutions. I don't think the institution's important. I think what's important is this human being named Jesus Christ. That's what's important, not the institution. Not mean, not mean.
Also, no slavery has ever been in Israel, is what you're saying.
Well, sure, but I would make an exception for like if you're a prisoner of war, like a violent criminal, then there would be exceptions, right? Because like we have
Oh
to
yeah, the
lock.
fact that a country will kill like a few
You can't say that word. You have to say
people
unalive.
from Israel, and then Israel has the support from every other country to just go flatten that country with bombs, and then Israel also just threatens other countries with nukes if they don't help them in wars.
Yeah, Israel is based.
So if America went and said,
Oh,
if you don't help me
based.
with this war, I'm gonna nuke you, that would be based.
Yeah.
Or if I went in up to somebody and said, if you don't help me go get something, I'm gonna nuke your entire family. So based.
Based.
What? How is that based?
Because you're like unapologetically just being you. You're just like, here's what it is. You know, you slap your meat on the table.
How is just threatening everybody with nukes based?
Well, what would make it wrong unless Jesus made it wrong?
Yeah, Jesus said, let's go kill everybody. Absolutely everybody.
Why would anything be wrong unless Jesus makes it wrong?
Wait, so abortion is fine, but murder is not.
You can't say that word, man. You guys are saying naughty words. Welcome, neighbor.
Hi,
Hello. Are you an adult?
I am. I'm 22.
Cool.
I'm not too educated on theology in general. I'm an agnostic atheist myself. I'm curious on your first point. How is Christianity objectively proven?
Well, because so God is like a different type of fact than regular facts because God makes facts true.
Nope. But then you're basing the fact off. You're saying, oh, he's real because he said he was. You can't. You need actual objective. If you're saying objective, you need proof.
What God can't prove he exists by his own authority, why not?
Well, if I say, oh, I have a blanket right in front of me right now, and there's no proof of that, it's just my word. You can't say, oh, it's true because of this.
Yeah, but God speaks with divine authority.
But
God is
that's to you. I'm saying if objective proof means that there's like hard hitting proof.
yeah, from the Christian perspective, God speaks with divine authority. So anything God says would be like the most true thing that could be true, right? From my perspective. I understand you don't.
But then you can't say objective. That's subjective.
Okay, but I'm trying to make an argument that's
No,
objective.
because you started that argument with from my perspective. That's not objective.
I don't even remember. You didn't even listen to what I had. See, that's the problem. Is like you don't care about the truth.
No, I
So
do.
no, well then you would have listened to my argument. I said one thing, and then you started going. Blah, 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 blah,
Well,
blah.
you started that thing with
Stop.
from my
Okay, and that's
perspective.
what you're doing. Okay, so you're
You're,
not even. See, this is the thing: is you're totally uncooperative. You're irrational.
okay, I'm sorry, I'll
And
let you speak.
okay,
I'm sorry.
all right. Well, there you go. God's obvious, and you're just uncooperative and in denial. So that's it.
Okay, so what's the objective proof of God?
I think you need a therapist. I don't think you're ready for evidence.
This is
sounds
not
like
an argument. This is not a
it
constructive.
sounds to me like you have daddy issues, and until you forgive your father on earth, you cannot forgive your father in heaven.
I have a great father.
You're never going to accept your father in heaven with your daddy issues, and that's just what it is.
This is very not Christian of you, but I'm just trying to have a constructive debate.
You're not, because every time I start talking and trying to like give an argument, you interrupt me.
Okay, I apologize for that. I will let you speak for like 2 minutes, and I will not interrupt you once.
Wow, thank you. So gracious. So God isn't a normal fact because God is the source of truth. And so the way we have to prove that type of fact, because he is the source of truth and he makes things true, we have to prove him as a system of truth. And so I would argue that only Christians have like a coherent system to like make sense of the world and say anything is true. Because when we deny the revelation of God, we don't have any like objective standards. We need revealed standards from God to say things are true, because if the standards we use to prove things are just made up by humans, then that makes all truth just made up ultimately. So unless God reveals a standard of truth, we have no standard of truth. So God is necessary to objectively prove anything. That's my argument.
Okay, so what's the objective proof for God himself? You're saying God is necessary to prove things, but what's the proof for God himself?
Yeah, if knowledge, then God, we have knowledge, therefore God.
But why? The only explanation for that is not God. There's no proof for that.
I just gave you the proof.
If we can have knowledge, can exist without a God.
Okay, defend that.
You made the claim that knowledge, a God must exist for knowledge.
I just argued that.
But
if you're saying I'm wrong, you're saying that like you can reason without the aid of Jesus, so you have to defend that. Or you're saying that you're in an environment where God did not reveal himself. You have to defend these things now. Can you defend your position?
I can defend that knowledge can exist without God.
How?
If there's no proof for God himself, then why would we just... That's like saying knowledge can exist without unicorns. If there's no proof for unicorns, then I can't say that knowledge can exist without them. If I say knowledge can exist without God, I have to prove that God exists first.
If you were to make any knowledge claim, I could debunk your knowledge claim because you don't have Jesus on your side. Whereas you can't do that to me because you can't debunk my knowledge claims because they're supported by Jesus.
You don't need a divine being to say A equals A. You just need reality.
Yeah, you do.
Why?
Because to say A equals A, you need that's like an absolute, unchanging, eternal truth. So you need an absolute, unchanging, eternal
But
truth.
you have to prove that absolute truth exists first.
You don't believe A equals A?
No, I believe in A equals A, but you're saying
Okay, but
for
if
A
you
equals A to
believe
be
that,
true.
you're now believing in absolute truth. So an absolute truth needs an absolute foundation, and that's Jesus. And there's nothing else that you could identify and defend that would be a foundation for that absolute truth. We can go to like modern philosophy; they'll agree with what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything controversial.
But you can't say that truth only exists with God if you cannot prove God himself. An absolute truth doesn't need a mind behind it. It just needs to be true in all cases.
If it's the case that Jesus is necessary for knowledge and that we have knowledge, Doesn't it just logically follow that Jesus exists?
No, because that's like saying
Okay.
knowledge can only exist with unicorns.
Okay,
Like, what is
well-
the difference?
Well, neighbor, you know what? I love you just the way you are. I'm glad we had this conversation.
You're scared.
I don't
You
think
don't want the truth, then you should repent.
never change. Welcome, neighbor.
Yo.
Yo, dog, what's up in the hizzy?
Oh, Western now. How's it going?
I do be fun.
Okay, so I'm hearing some pretty crazy stuff, man. I'm not crazy, actually. I think your argument holds well. I think I'd rather, use that. I'd rather use morality, though. I think morality can be better used as a means of evidence. But I have a question, though, for your argument. Because you're saying that if we have objective truths like A equals A, we need a holder for that, like God, right? That it necessitates from, right?
You need to have an absolute truth, you need an absolute foundation.
Yeah, okay. So my question for you though then is how are we sure that it is the Christian God that is this foundation and not the Muslim one or another religions?
Because of the perfect attribute set. You need a Trinitarian God. I don't know the best way. Because
I understand the Trinity, so you don't have to I understand the doctrine.
It's because if God is just one and an ultimate eternal unity, then there would diversity or differences between objects would be an illusion. Basically, we need there's connections between objects. Like you and me are both human beings. That's a connection.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also distinctions where you're smarter than me, you're probably younger than me. So there's differences between us, but we also have things in common. And both these things have to be real for knowledge to be possible. Because if there's no distinctions and everything is one, then there's no such thing as the law of non-contradiction, because everything is A. There's no such thing as not A. Or if all we have is distinctions and there's no connections, crap, what's the problem with that? My mind's going blank. Well, there'd be no explanation. There'd be no connections between facts. There'd be no connections between events. We wouldn't be able to explain anything without connections. So we need connections between objects to be real, like we share similar properties, and we also need distinctions to be real, which means we need a God or ultimate reality with like Trinity has three distinctions, three persons, and then
but one essence, yeah.
Yeah. So Allah doesn't have that, or Yahweh doesn't have that, or whatever God doesn't have. Only Christians have that attribute. So, and that's a necessary attribute.
So you don't think they have a well-defined enough attribute as the Trinitarian one? The Trinitarian one then makes the most sense in that regard.
It's only Jesus has the attributes to make logic real.
Yeah.
Allah couldn't make logic real because Allah could also violate logic. He's not. Allah is pure will. He's not. He doesn't have an unchanging essence like Jesus.
Oh, okay, I see now, because if Jesus was man and he was bound by logic too, and so only the attributes of Jesus then, a Trinitarian God like that would be superior to the Muslim ones in this logical regard you got.
Yeah, basically Allah just lacks the attributes. If Allah couldn't secure logic, because Allah could decide to make a square circle tomorrow if he wanted to. Where Jesus can't make a square circle. Jesus can't make a square circle because logic is based on his unchanging nature, and it flows from him.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting argument. I've never heard that before. I've seen Muslims actually use the law of non-contradiction to try and debunk the Trinity that way. But yeah, no, that is interesting though. Yeah.
Yeah, I think surface level, the Trinity seems like a logical error. But I think when we do a deep analysis on it, it's actually necessary for logic. So
well, also if God is an infinite being, you can't expect to comprehend it fully with your limited human mind.
That's another thing too. Yeah, no worldview can answer like every question.
Yeah.
There's the mind body problem. Like, how does our mind interact with our physical body? Like, I can't answer that.
Yeah.
I couldn't necessarily tell you what consciousness is or something like in like extreme detail or
Hmm.
so yeah. But I think we need like basically the source of existence, truth, and values to reveal itself to us to have any sort of foundation because due to human limitations, we'd be just like lost in the dark without it being able to know anything's true.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Is
So
Rebecca still in the chat?
no.
Well, not in here, but like in the live stream. Like not like the live, like in the live stream chat. Are they watching? I guess you can't say, but they said earlier up in the conversation. I don't know. This just peeved me a bit. They said you can have your religion, but you can't use it to legislate. And I think that's a really retarded argument because anyone could
You can't
if
say
you're
that. You can't say that. Um I think we should I'm for like secular state. I mean the laws are already kind of based off religious principles, but I don't know. I think we should
So
state like I wouldn't say like
when
yeah, go ahead.
when did Jesus say it's okay to unalive people? Back to the thing that saying you're gonna nuke somebody's based.
I was just kind of joking.
Why is that something to joke about?
Well, because like that's so life is like can be hard. And so when there's like tragedy, what we do is we use humor to deal with tragedy. It's a way. It's like eases tension. It's a healthy coping mechanism, I think. And I'd rather you not like judge people for the way they deal with tragedy.
Okay, and also, how can you just but you're you're against abortion, but not unaliving people is fine.
No, it's not fine.
Then why did you say it was?
I just
Your
explained it to you.
argument just instantly changes
It was
5 minutes
tongue.
later.
I was being tongue in cheek. But
Also,
anyways,
how can
he was talking about nation states which are satanic. Did you know all the nation states in the world are totalitarian and controlled by the devil?
you know Israel isn't Christian? They don't believe in Jesus, but you're just
No,
oh
this
yeah,
is a
they're
lawsuit
fine.
about this has nothing to do with Israel.
No slavery in ancient Israel, so nothing on here has anything to do with Israel.
Yeah, ancient Israel, not what's going on in Israel currently in politics.
No, Jews have never believed in Jesus being the Messiah.
Okay.
Why is almost every Christian so devout to Jews in Israel?
That's
Like,
not
oh, they're
true.
being attacked. They need our
That's
help
not
so
true.
badly.
That's not true. A lot of Christians do not
Yeah,
like
me.
okay. You're
I'm a Christian. I do.
God. I was getting North Korean vibes from that guy.
Hello.
No. Welcome, neighbor. Are you an adult?
Yes, sir, I am. I just have like a weird voice.
No worries. I don't think your voice sounds weird. You're a woman, unless you're a man. Maybe then you have.
No, sir.
Okay. What would you like to say? Did she just leave? I didn't kick her.
Hello.
Welcome, neighbor.
Hello, neighbor. How are you doing today?
I do be fine.
Okay.
What would you like to say?
I would like to talk about number 4.
Okay.
Can I know your standpoint on it and like what you think is okay and what you don't think is okay?
Well, my whole thing, I guess, is like the intention. Like, if you're trying to save life, I know there's instances, then like I wouldn't really classify that as an abortion because to me, an abortion is like the intentional unaliving of a preborn baby when it's like not really necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Do you think women should be like put in prison for that? Do you think
um, I wouldn't want to like retroactively do that, but I would want to change the law where yeah I would want to.
you would? Okay.
Well, because like you think about it, if I, I I've seen there was actually this case. This is like a real case where a woman gave birth and she put the baby in the garbage. Well, this has actually happened more
I
than
saw that. I saw that. It was a girl in high school. I saw that.
yeah, it's happened more than once. But
Yeah, it has.
I mean they're gonna get charged with murder for doing that.
Yes.
So I don't. To me, it's the same thing. But
Okay. I do want to ask you two questions, just to see like how you stand on those two questions. So, in some pregnancies, if a woman is pregnant with twins, the other twin eats the other twin because the other twin is, you know, um, do you think that baby should be arrested when it comes out?
um, no, because I think that like you wouldn't. I think you don't have like moral culpability. Like so, animals we don't really. If a dog like unalives someone, we don't really think the dog's necessarily like evil. It's just like an animal, and that's what animals do. And so like I would just think of it like that. It's kind of like they're not really like a moral agent at that point because they don't really have the cognitive abilities to think about is this right? Is this wrong? Like a 2 year old doesn't really like if a 2 year old, you know, God forbid, does something and like unalives another person somehow. You wouldn't think the 2 year old is like responsible. It just doesn't really know what it's doing, you know?
Okay. My second question is, so IUDs, they allow conception to happen, but then they get rid of the baby. Do you think those women should be put in prison for that?
Yeah, I think that's the same as abortion. Yeah.
You think part of birth control is a part of abortion?
Well, because it can potentially result in abortion. That's the problem.
But it's a form of birth control that
Yeah, but
prevents it.
it doesn't always prevent contraception, so it would cause contraception to possibly happen, and then it makes it impossible for the zygote to like attach to the wall, and then so that would cause like an abortion.
I would also like to talk about so do you care about the kids in foster care and the kids who are homeless and the kids who are neglected by their parents and stuff like that?
Sure, I care about everyone.
Do you do anything for children in foster care or like kids who are homeless or like kids who are in need?
I bought some kids McDonald's the other day.
Foster care is a very bad, it's honestly really terrible. Most people don't most people don't usually get adopted,
Well,
who
because
are instead of getting aborted, they end up going in adoption and they go in foster care. And foster care is not a good system whatsoever. Most people are in it just for the money, and the kids sometimes they don't find a home or they're neglected.
well, but it's kind of like the problem with the school system too. Is that like predators? It's if you're a predator, then that's like an ideal thing you would want to do is like be a foster parent, right? Or another thing is like a lot of the kids are victims of predators, and then they like do bad things because that messes up their mind, and then they hurt other kids. So it's yeah. I don't know. I don't. There's no like. I don't. I don't know if what's the solution. Like it's just like it just sucks. Like sometimes, I mean, it's the same thing in the school system. If you're a predator, then being a teacher is like a good job because you're surrounded by your prey, right? So what do you do? I mean, that's just the way it is. Like that sucks. But what are we gonna do? Get rid of teachers?
They should see the teacher's records, honestly.
Yeah, but it
But
doesn't. Yeah, but not everyone has a record.
yeah, I know that. But I'm gonna tell you my stance on it on abortion. I think I don't think it's just a woman's choice. I also think it's the dad's choice as well. They should have a conversation. I don't really think she should do it behind his back if they are together because it is his child. I also think if you're not financially ready, because some women sometimes it's rare-ish, but some women are financially stable enough to have a child, and then they have something happen, and then they're not financially stable anymore, so they have to get an abortion or whatever
Yeah,
because
like Biden gets
afford
elected.
that.
Yeah, like you could be financially stable and then Biden gets elected.
Well, we're not talking about Biden. We're talking about that. I'm not political
I'm
with
just
that.
making, I'm just making a joke.
Well, I'm not. I'm not. I don't really know about that stuff. Honestly, I'm not really.
Me either, but I thought it'd just be funny to say that. So I don't even.
At least you're kicking up the mood.
Yeah.
But so back to the IUD thing. How many years do you think the woman should get for that? For using a form of health care for women?
I don't know. I mean, I think it should just be the same as I don't know.
So
I think
you
it shouldn't be allowed. How many years? I don't know.
you actually think a source of birth control that prevents you from having children is child sacrifice.
Yeah.
It prevents them from having to get the abortion or having the baby if they're not ready.
I mean, there's bad things about birth control. Like people look at birth control as this like liberating thing, but
I mean, birth control sucks, yes it does, but it's like that it's a form of birth control. It stops
uh
you having children.
before
It's
like um birth control, right? If
yes.
if a man loved his wife or his woman, he had to make a voluntary self-sacrifice, which I think to me is the most like beautiful type of love. So before birth control, a man would have to voluntarily self-sacrifice, his like desires, or else his wife would like be perpetually pregnant. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's sweet, and I think that's loving, and I think after birth control, it's like you don't have to do that anymore. You can just engage in the act whenever, without any responsibility or consequences. And
I mean,
then
consequences still can come. There's a 1% chance with that.
now there's no voluntary self-sacrifice, and now the woman becomes more like an object to the man, and I think that's kind of gross. So I see like it might be better to, there might be more freedom if we get rid of birth control.
But then there'd be probably more abortions and more babies and unwanted kids
I want all the children.
without
I
home.
don't think there shouldn't be any unwanted kids. We should want all.
There is unwanted kids. The kids that are put in foster care instead of being aborted.
I think we love children. I don't believe in unwanted kids.
There are unwanted kids.
I don't believe
There
that.
definitely are because they were put in foster care instead of their parents wanting them.
Jesus wants them.
I'm not religious either, so
Well, then you're going to hell.
I can burn. I guess I can burn.
Okay, I'm gonna give someone else a chance. There's like some people requesting.
Okay,
Thank you. I wish you well.
thank you.
Oh, Jesus, a lot of people requesting. Um,
Hello,
welcome, neighbor.
how are you?
I do be fine. What would you like to say?
Well, Can you explain how Christianity is objectively proven?
Yeah, it's so like to prove things, we have to use like rules of thinking, and we could only have rules of thinking if Jesus is God, because the rules need to be enforced. If nothing enforces the rules of thought, we can't prove anything. So we need Jesus to be sort of like a cosmic referee or cosmic police, to enforce these like rules of thinking, and that
Okay, so then you'd have to objectively prove Jesus.
no, you're not. I'm saying he's necessary as a precondition for objective proof.
So then
Without
you'd have to prove him because you think he's necessary.
well, you and what I just argued that you can't prove anything objectively without Jesus as because he's necessary.
Well, then you'd have to prove Jesus. That is, because you have to, if he's foundational to you proving anything, you have to prove what your foundation is on.
You're asking me to do something that I just argued is absurd.
But your argument is absurd because you can't
You
prove
are no.
Jesus,
What
and
you're
that means
saying is
your
absurd.
foundation is wrong.
You're asking me to do something absurd because I think you don't intellectually understand what's going on.
I think you think Jesus is like the baseline of all understanding. So that means that, yeah, I don't know. For you, it's like Jesus is tied into thinking and proving anything, but he's really not.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think Jesus is necessary as a verification principle to verify human reason. Your position is gonna be like human reasoning is a what self-validating, but that's arbitrary and circular.
It's not though.
You think really? Well, so logic justifies logic?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's not true. That's circular.
Well, Jesus can't. Jesus doesn't. I mean, why Jesus? Why not any other God?
Only Jesus has the unique like you need a Trinitarian God. And only Christianity is a Trinitarian God.
What if there's another religion that had a Trinitarian God? Would it be able to prove everything?
Well, I mean, a hypothetical. I don't.
It's like your logic doesn't stand up that can only be Jesus.
I
If you
mean,
disqualify it by a
it would
Trinitarian
have
God.
to be. It would have to be like revealed, right? Like you can't just make shit up. So it has to be revealed. And I'm not. There just isn't any
What if
revealed.
Jesus is just made up?
He's revealed. It's objectively revealed.
Objectively revealed. So I
Yeah,
should know what that means.
I'm just not making shit up, right? So I'm appealing to things that are tangible. Like the history of the church is tangible, or like the Bible is tangible, or like metaphysical realities that are
Okay,
tangible.
hold on. Let me tell you, the Quran is tangible. The history of the Islamic Church is tangible,
Yeah, but
and
all it can't ground logic.
but you think your religion can,
Yeah,
even though it has the same qualifiers.
no, Allah is not a Trinitarian God. He's Unitarian.
Okay, but why does he have to be Trinitarian?
Because without an ultimate eternal unity and an ultimate eternal diversity, um, knowledge would be impossible.
So any other religion that has unity and exactly what you said would fit your criteria of being able to prove everything.
Only Christianity, only Jesus has these perfect attribute set. No other God has the other attribute set.
Okay, I'll make up a God that does.
Well, then I would just say you just made that up. So I'm
But
not,
it's
we don't
but
do,
then I can say the same thing to you.
but that would be a lie because I didn't make up the Bible. It's
No, I
objective,
can say the Bible is made up.
but that would be a lie. So you could lie, sure. Yeah.
No, I'm not lying. I wouldn't be lying in that.
Okay. Bye. But what if I just lie? Oh my God! What a dumb argument.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. I just want to point it out. I think it's incredibly important to have debate spaces like this of intellectual debate, and uh, I'll be the first to thank you. This is very amazing what you're doing here. But I think I'm going to tackle your second claim. Atheism is irrational, right?
Okay.
Would you like just from your perspective, would you say that the belief of Islam is irrational?
Yes.
Okay, what about the belief of Christianity?
No.
Okay, let's look at this from like a objective perspective. If you believe Christianity is rational and that Islam is irrational, both of them do exist, like on the plane of Earth, right? There are people who believe both of them, right?
Yes.
Why can't I'll go back to the guy who was before me. Why can't I just say, I believe in the hamburger god? Because because cheese exists, because cheese comes from milk, and because of cows existing, and because cows come from God, it's a circular thing. It's a circular thing. All of it ties back to itself. It has a logical reasoning. If that itself can be proven as well, why can't I use that definition to say that it's objectively true?
Because if you deny Jesus, you're denying one or more of his unique and perfect attributes, and those attributes are the necessary precondition for like science, knowledge, truth, reason, morality.
Yeah, I mean, I get my stomach hurts a lot whenever I have hamburgers. That's pretty like that's an attribute if you ask me. I mean, you can't use circular definitions because it's a logical fallacy.
All
You're
definitions
appealing to an authority figure.
You're just saying things that you don't know. All definitions are circular. Oh my God.
Exactly. You can't use a circular definition to justify your sense of reason.
All definitions are circular.
Sure. But if you're trying to prove something's existence, just let me finish. Let me finish really quickly. If you're trying to prove something's existence, the reason you can't use circular definitions is because in that sense, every single thing is true. Like, give me a claim you believe to be like false.
I think I'm just gonna move on because you clearly don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I just cooked you.
Okay, yeah, sure you did. Clip that, because that will do nothing for you. Welcome, neighbor.
What's up, brother? How you doing this evening?
Yeah, clip that and tell people you cooked me. I'm doing
Bro,
well.
get him back up here. I want to debate him. Come on. Let me get the fade. Let me get the intellectual fade.
Oh my God. Okay, so apparently my friend is telling me, he's texting me and said that I argued against that 1 + 1 = 2. Okay, so an absolute truth is like true independent of a human mind. So like 1 + 1 = 2. That's true whether you agree or not. It's also true on Neptune. It's true on Mars. It's true on Earth. So it's true everywhere.
Okay. So you could almost say it's a fact, right? Something we could prove.
It's a fact that's like it's basically it never changes. It's eternal. It has to be true.
Okay. Well, everything can change. Any fact can change. But I understand.
1 + 1 = 2 can change.
I mean, it could. I mean, I'm not a mathematician.
Okay, well, it actually can't. If you think that, then like that means that we can't even argue because now there's no logical consistency.
Okay.
Show me physical evidence 1 + 1 = 2. It doesn't exist, but you believe 1 + 1
Yes,
= 2.
one ball, and I got another ball, and then I got two balls. Easy.
You got no balls, dude. That's your problem. You need balls to say that Christianity is objectively proven. So you need to grow a pair and stop being a coward.
That's not what I meant. I said if I have one object and I have another object.
Oh my God, I kill me. Is it bad that I laugh at my own jokes? Oh my God.
Those equal two objects.
No, they do not.
You got no balls.
Where's the number 2?
Okay, so
you
have one ball in your right hand, or one glass.
Where can
and then
I
you have another glass in your left hand, and then they disappear.
Where can I see the number 2? Oh. So I'll add people in a second. I'm just texting my friend. He didn't understand what I was saying. The number. Uh, anyways, okay. I was arguing with someone that math isn't found in nature. Did I already talk to you, Alex? It's like all these. You guys have all already requested up, and didn't we already talk?
Yo, Mars,
Yeah.
why'd you kick me so quick, brother?
Because I don't. I just like I'm gonna read or I'm gonna like talk to non-believers. I don't like have Christians like hang out here.
No, I said let's put our theological differences aside, and I want to have a debate with Cy, the guy you kicked.
Yeah, I don't do that. I don't host debates for other people here.
But we, I mean,
Why don't you
believe-
go live? Why don't you do your own live? Why do you need me? Go live on your own. What the fuck?
Mars, I don't know why you're being so, so.
I don't know why you're trying to take over. This is my live. Why are you
I'm
trying
not
to
taking
host?
anything
I'm
over.
the host.
I understand. That's why I'm asking out of respect. Can I debate this?
No, I don't host. Like, I don't want to host people having a debate. I want to read or I want to talk to non-believers. That's what I do. Like, if you want to debate people, why don't you host your own live?
How about I debate you?
How about you go to hell? What is wrong with people, man? Welcome, neighbor.
All right, let's start.
Let's
Objectively
start.
proven.
Yes.
What's objective?
Yeah, it's objectively proven, yes.
And what's objective mean to you?
It means it's a fact of the external world. It's not like a fact of my mental state.
And you think that Christianity is objectively proven?
Hell yeah. Jesus objectively existed, and Jesus objectively was God.
Well, okay, so first of all, I'll give you that Jesus objectively existed, although I think that's still debatable.
It's not.
But even if we accept that that's objective, he's objectively God. Well,
yes, he's objectively God. Yeah, you couldn't because to even like debate, you have to appeal to absolute truths, and only Jesus has the perfect attribute set to serve as a foundation for absolute truths.
So one person that existed out of billions and billions of people objectively is God.
Hell yeah, yes. Because the only way we could...
Because if that was true, then people wouldn't have to be taught that he was God.
Yeah, they don't. Everyone, he's revealed himself to everyone. Everyone knows Jesus.
That is objectively not true. Many people don't believe in Jesus, even after learning about him.
Well, because they suppress the truth and unrighteousness, so they're just in denial.
And many people never hear about him, and so believe in a Jesus-like character that isn't him. Or believe in other characters that are...
It doesn't matter because they exist. They exist in his creation. So Jesus created the world.
But that's a subjective opinion.
It's not.
No, it really is.
It really isn't. I really can objectively prove it.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Just saying it is doesn't prove anything.
It's kind of like what I said at the beginning. Is that like to prove anything, you have to rely on absolute truths, and human minds can't give us absolute truths, and the universe doesn't give us absolute truths. So,
but your mind has given you an absolute truth that applies to all the other minds.
No, I'm saying that God, the source of existence, truth, is a person that entered into human history and revealed himself to us. And if you deny that, then you couldn't tell me what the source of existence and truth is. And so if you have no source of existence and truth, you have no foundation to say
You
anything is
can
true
just
or
say
that
you
anything
don't
exists.
know. So here's the thing, though. You can say you don't know because there's not an objective source for it. This is a very subjective thing you're talking about. I don't think you know what this word means.
Are you saying you don't know the source of existence?
No.
Okay, so that would be a concession that you need Jesus to argue. There you go.
No, that's not true.
It
That
is
would
true
be a.
because any argument you
No, it's
make,
not.
it is because you could any knowledge claim that you provide, I could just give you a skeptical argument to defeat your position. So only Jesus can get us out of skepticism.
Okay, well, what if I say it's only Muhammad? Is he Jesus?
Well, Muhammad couldn't make logic real.
In so much as Jesus could?
Yeah, Muhammad doesn't have the attribute set of Jesus. Like you need a
Fine.
Trinitarian God. Only Christians have a revealed Trinitarian God that's necessary. So no other God
But
has
you,
those
so
attributes.
you just can't understand that that's a subjective way of viewing what
It's not
exists.
subjective because
It literally is.
is logic subjective?
So the
Is
only
logic
possible,
subjective?
the only
Is
possible way.
logic
No,
subjective?
don't start doing this.
Dude, I will kick you. Is logic subjective?
Logic in itself, no.
Yeah, and so
Our
I'm
understanding
making
of
a
it,
logical argument. I'm saying like you can't
right?
have
But
logic without Jesus. So
right, but
everyone has
your
to.
point. Hold on,
It's his
you're not
object.
even addressing
No,
your point.
listen to me, little man.
You know, you just gotta
Little
talk over
man,
somebody
listen
because you
to
don't want to listen
me.
to them.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, you're a bitch.
Exactly. Mask comes off. So it's not subjective, right? So objectively, everybody who debates has to give an account for their use of logic. So that's why it's objective, because objectively, everyone has to use logic and everyone has to account for logic. If you can't account for logic, then you can't debate. So it's objective. It applies to everyone. I'm making a metalogical argument. I'm saying, given your metaphysical assumptions, if they're true, would debate be possible? Could logic be real? So, if the Christian metaphysical assumptions are true, we could debate because could have objective truth, objective knowledge due to the mind of God being an objective reference point to serve as a foundation for those things. You're saying God isn't the foundation for objective knowledge. Well, something else must be the foundation for objective knowledge because you're trying to argue and debate as if there is a foundation for objective knowledge. So you're going to have to tell me what that is. Or you're not engaging in the argument, you're just avoiding the argument. Were you going to say that it's rational to debate? It's rational to debate without a foundation for truth? How does that make sense? We're sitting here making truth claims with no foundation for truth and then calling ourselves rational. Are you kidding me? You're joking, right? You must be joking. Surely you're joking. So let's talk about the names of God. How about Elohim? For one, its usage. The term Elohim occurs in the general sense of deity about 2,570 times in the Old Testament. About 2,310 times it is the name for the true God. The first occurrence is in the first verse of the Bible. It is used in reference to false deities in Genesis, Exodus, meaning, right? So the meaning of Elohim depends on its derivation. Some understand that it comes from a root that means fear and indicates that the deity is to be feared, re- uh, reverenced, or worshipped. Others trace its root that means strong, indicating a deity of great power. Though not conclusive, the evidence seems to point to the later derivation, signifying, in the case of the true God, he is the one, that he is the strong one, the mighty leader, the supreme deity. The plural form. Elohim, a plural form, is peculiar to the Old Testament and it appears in no other Semitic language. Generally speaking, there are three views as to the significance of this plural form. It is a polytheistic plural. For example, the word originally had a polytheistic sense and only later acquired a singular sense. However, the monotheism of the Old Testament was revealed and not developed from polytheism. 2. It is a Trinitarian plural. For example, the triune Godhead is seen, or at least intimated, in the use of this plural form. However, we shall see in the next chapter, to conclude, this necessitates reading New Testament revelation back into the Old Testament. The plural may allow for the subsequent revelation of the Trinity, but that is quite different from saying that the plural indicates triunity. 3. It is a majestic plural. The fact that the noun is consistently used with singular verb forms and with adjectives and pronouns in the singular affirms this. The plural of majesty denotes unlimited greatness and supremacy. I'm not really good with language. I'm going to have that explained to a dummy. Error in message, what? Why is, what the frick? Is ChatGPT broken right now? What the hell? The frick? ChatGPT is not working. That's not good.
Yo.
Hello.
Hello. Can I ask about okay, for abortion, what if you have to abort for the sake of the mother's life? Like it's life or death and you have to abort.
I wouldn't really
What
define that as an abortion. I define an abortion as like you're intentionally unaliving the preborn baby for like some reason that's not to like save the mother's life.
Okay, so like a selfish reason, like you just don't want to have the kid. That's what you define it as?
Yeah, typically it's like the right to choose or whatever, something like that.
Okay. Oh, that's all I wanted to ask about.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Welcome,
Yo, what's
neighbor.
up?
What would you like to say?
Okay, how is Christianity objectively proven? Like,
So like basically the type of thing God is, he makes facts true. So we have to prove him kind of differently. We have to prove him as sort of like a system of truth, and we would say without like Jesus as your system of truth that your system of truth would be susceptible to skeptical arguments, and therefore you would have no truth.
Explain a bit further because it makes no sense right now. Your words just.
Have you ever heard of like skeptical arguments?
I don't think so.
No.
No.
Well, basically, like if you think about existence, we could never know the source of existence unless the source of existence was a person who speaks to us and reveals himself to us. And that's what we have in Christianity. And that only that person in Christianity has the unique and perfect attributes to make like science possible or to make logic real. So yeah.
My bad. My bad. I jumped in front of your words.
Well, it's just like to deny Jesus is like to deny logic itself.
Well, that's not exactly true though, because even in okay, so there are 10,000 religions. Right? There are more than thousands of religion out there. Okay, each one of them have a different story about their God and even multiple gods. So how can we say that Christianity is objectively proven and is true?
Well, it's like what I said, that they would, any of those non-Christian positions would lack one or more of the attributes of Jesus, and those attributes are necessary for like logic and science.
No, they're not though. Like what?
Oh, well, that's just bickering.
Tell me how it's needed. How, like, prove me your point, because you're just making a statement without any argument behind it.
I'd have to get into like deep philosophy though. I don't. It seems like you're not really.
But you're just you can't just make a statement without any argument though.
Yeah, but I'm giving you an argument, and you're kind of just.
You're not giving me an argument. You're giving.
I
me
am
a
giving you an argument. I'm saying Jesus.
You're telling me that anything that's not close to Jesus is wrong, basically.
Only Jesus has the perfect attributes. Like,
but he doesn't have the perfect attributes. He doesn't have the perfect attributes.
He does. Like, only Christians have a Trinitarian God, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that is true. So, who else has a Trinitarian God?
Dude, probably like okay. We got Zoroastrians.
Are you just gonna make shit up?
Zoroastrians.
So if I Google Zoroastrians have a Trinitarian God,
dude, that is the first monotheistic religion of all time. Not of all time. It's one of the sources of monotheistic religion.
Okay, I'm googling it. Zoroastrians have a Trinitarian God, like the Christian God, correct?
Yeah.
And if it says you're wrong, you're getting booted for lying.
Sure.
Sure. Okay. No, you're lying. Uh-oh.
Well,
welcome, neighbor.
Yeah, like I have an issue with your part on Christianity. Like,
okay.
I just think that it's weird that you would worship a dead kike on a stick.
Oh.
You worship a dead kike on a stick. Hail Israel!
This is atheism. He would have been really popular in Europe in 1940. No, not a mean, guys. Not a mean. Okay, so anyways, the term majestic plural refers to a way of speaking or writing where a singular person or entity uses a plural form, like we instead of I, to show their importance or greatness. In this case, the text is talking about how the word for God in some ancient texts, like the Hebrew Bible, is written in a plural form, such as Elohim, a plural word in Hebrew. However, it is used with singular verb, adjectives, and pronouns, which shows it's still referring to one God. Maybe not many gods. Okay. Think of it like king or queen saying we instead of I to emphasize their authority or majesty, even though they're just one person. Here, the plural form of God highlights God's supreme power and greatness, not that there are multiple gods. It's a way to show respect and emphasize God's unmatched importance. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I always wondered that. Why did God refer to himself as we? Well, that makes sense. Like, if Trump says, like, we or us, he's like talking about America. America! Welcome, neighbor.
Yo,
Yo.
I just have like, there's this thing with Matthew 13:2 that talks about sending missiles to Israel. We have to send missiles to Israel. We have to worship Jews and send missiles to Israel. Worship a dead kike on a stick and send missiles to Israel. We need them.
This is atheism. So anyways, relationships of this name. If this name of God means the strong one and occurs in a majestic plural, one would expect that it would be used in relation to his greatness and mighty acts. In relation to his sovereignty, Elohim is used to describe him as the God of all earth, the God of all flesh, the God of all heaven, and the God of gods and the Lord of lords. In relation to his work of creation, he is the Elohim who created all things. In relation to his judging, in relation to his mighty works on behalf of Israel. Used in relation to his sovereignty, his work of creation, his judgment, and his help of Israel. Greatness, mighty, okay. Compound names. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Shaddai, I think. El Shaddai, though the derivation of this word is uncertain, the most accepted one is that Shaddai is connected with Akkadian, an Akkadian word that means mountain. Thus, this name of God pictured him as the Almighty One standing on a mountain. It was the name by which God appeared to the patriarchs to give comfort and confirmation of the covenant with Abraham. This name is also often used in connection with the chastening of God's people. So mountains have typically in like many cultures been connected to God, right? Because it's like God's in heaven, and so when you're on a mountain, you're like closest to God or something, I guess is the idea. Welcome, neighbor.
We need to send $4 billion to Israel. We need to worship Jews. That's what Jesus said. We need to worship Jews and send $4 billion and missiles to Israel so we could kill every Arab.
This is atheism. El Elyon, this name, the Most High God, emphasized God's strength, sovereignty, and supremacy. It was first used by Melchizedek when he blessed Abraham. Though if Isaiah 14:14 records Satan's attempt to usurp the supremacy of God, this would be a prior use. After these early occurrences, its use proceeds until about 1000 BC, where it appears again in poetic and exilic literatures. El Olam, this name means the everlasting God, from an original form meaning the God of eternity. It emphasizes God's unchangeableness and is connected with his inexhaustible strength. El Roy, God who sees, Hagar gave this name to God when he spoke to her before Ishmael's birth. Yahweh. It's Yahweh or the highway. Welcome, neighbor.
Revelations 12, send money to Israel. Worship Jews. Send money to Israel. We need to send missiles and money to Israel. That's what we need to do, guys.
This is atheism. The second basic name for God is the personal one, Yahweh, the Lord or Yahweh. It is the most frequently used name, occurring about 5,321 times in the Old Testament. So the origin of the word apparently comes from the root hawa, which signifies either existence as a tree trunk where it falls, or development. Perhaps both ideas can be combined in the significance of God's name by saying that it denotes Him as the active, self-existent one. The active, self-existent one. Revelation of the name. The name was used by Eve, people in the days of Seth, Noah, and Abraham, but it was to Moses that the deep significance of the name was revealed. God said that even though he appeared to the patriarchs, he was not known to them by his name Yahweh. The meaning of the name was not known in its fullest and deepest sense. This revelation came to Moses at the burning bush when God identified himself as, I am who I am. The principal idea being that God was present with the people of Israel. Sacredness of the name. Since Yahweh was God's personal name by which he was known to Israel, in post-exilic times it began to be considered so sacred that it was not pronounced. Instead, the term Adonai was usually substituted, and by the 6th to 7th centuries AD, the vowels of Adonai were combined with the consonants Yahweh to remind the synagogue leader to pronounce the sacred name as Adonai. From this came the artificial word Jehovah. But all of this underscores the awe in which the name was held. Significance of the name. Several facets seem to be included in the significance of the name Yahweh. It emphasizes God's changeless self-existence. This may be supported by the etymology and from the Lord's use of Exodus 3:14 and John 8:58 to state his claim to absolute external existence. It assures God's presence with his people. See Exodus 3:12. It is connected with God's power to work on behalf of his people and to keep his covenant with them, which was illustrated and confirmed by his work in their deliverance from Egypt. So it emphasizes God's changeless self-existence. It assures God's presence with his people and is connected with God's power to work on behalf of his people. Compounds with the name. Yahweh Jireh, the Lord will provide. After the angel of the Lord pointed to a ram to use as substitute for Isaac, Abraham named the place, the Lord will provide. Yahweh Nisa, the Lord is my banner. After the defeat of the Amalekites, Moses erected an altar and called it Yahweh Nisi. Yahweh Shalom, the Lord is peace. Yahweh Sabaoth, the Lord of hosts. This is a military figure that pictures Yahweh as the commander of the angelic armies of heaven, as well as the armies of Israel. The title reveals the sovereignty and omnipotence of God and was used often by the prophets. Isaiah, and Jeremiah to remind the people during times of national crisis that God was their leader and protector. Yahweh Makadeshim, the Lord who sanctifies you. Yahweh Roy, the Lord is my shepherd. Yahweh Sidkenu, the Lord our righteousness. Yahweh Shammah, the Lord is there. Yahweh Elohim Israel, the Lord, the God of Israel. Strictly speaking, these compounds are not additional names of God, but designations or titles that often grew out of commemorative events. However, they do reveal additional facets of the character of God. The Lord will provide, the Lord is my banner, the Lord is peace, the Lord of hosts, the Lord who sanctifies you, the Lord is my shepherd, the Lord is our righteousness, the Lord is there, the Lord, the God of Israel. Adonai. Like Elohim, Adonai is a plural of majesty. The singular means Lord, Master, Owner. It is used, as might be expected, of the relationship between men, like master and slave. When used of God's relationship to men, it conveys the idea of his absolute authority. Joshua recognized the authority of the captain of the Lord's host, and Isaiah submitted to the authority of the Lord, his master. The New Testament equivalent is Kyrios, Lord. God, Theos, usage. So Theos is the most frequent designation of God in the New Testament and the most common translation in the Septuagint for Elohim. It almost always refers to the one true God, though sometimes it is used of the gods of paganism in the reported words of pagans or by Christians repudiating these false gods. It also refers to the devil and sensuality. Most importantly, Jesus Christ is designated as Theos, though some of the passages are disputed. Notice Romans, John, and Titus. In atheism, they have to say like truth is true because it's like pragmatically true. But when you say truth, things are true because they're pragmatically true, it ultimately makes truth just a property of a sentence, and sentences are based on vocabularies, and vocabularies are just invented by humans, and then so it's like ultimately humans just invent truth. That's why, do you notice when the atheist argues, they want to focus on definitions, and so I'm trying to move away from that because their whole worldview is about definitions and defining truth into existence. Since they have no source of truth, they just define truth into existence. We don't define truth into existence. We have a revealed truth, that the truth is a person and it's revealed to us. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So teaching. One second. Whoa, thanks for the likes, guys. That's a lot of likes. I just noticed. Sorry, I don't really pay attention to stuff in the chat. It's like kind of hard for me. I think I'd miss a lot. I'd miss a lot of context when I look at the chat, so it's hard to like judge what people are saying. So I kind of just end up ignoring it. Teaching. So the uses of the word reveal a number of important truths about the true God. One, he is the only one true God. This fundamental truth of Judaism, the unity of God, was affirmed by Christ and the early church. Two, he is unique. He is the only God, the only true God, the only holy one, the only wise one. Therefore, believers can have no other gods besides the one true God. He is transcendent. God is the creator, sustainer, and Lord of the universe and planner of the ages. He is Savior. He sent his Son to be the Redeemer and delivered him to death for us. Christ as God. So Christ, the Son of God, is called God in several New Testament texts. In John, the Johannine teaching includes the following passages. John 1:18, where some manuscripts read, the only begotten God, and that unusual reading may be regarded as grounds for accepting its authenticity. 20:28, where Thomas used both Kyrios and Theos of Jesus, and 1 John 5:20. In Paul, Titus 2:13 seems to be the clearest designation of Christ as God in Paul's writings, since Romans 9:5 is questioned by some. However, it is linguistically proper and contextually preferable to ascribe the phrase God blessed forever to Christ. The fifth word, Lord, Kyrios. The uses. The majority of the 717 occurrences of Kyrios in the New Testament are by Luke and Paul, since they wrote to people of Greek culture and language. Meaning, the word emphasizes authority and supremacy. It can mean sir, owner, or master, or it can refer to idols or husbands. When used of God as Kyrios, it expressly, particularly his creatorship, his power revealed in history, and his dominion over the universe. Christ as Kyrios. During his earthly life, Jesus was addressed as Lord, meaning rabbi or sir. Thomas ascribed full deity to him when he declared, "My Lord, my God." Christ's resurrection exaltation placed him as Lord of the universe, but to an early Christian accustomed to reading the Old Testament, the word Lord, when used of Jesus, would suggest his identification with the God of the Old Testament. This means, in relation to a verse like Romans 10:9, that any Jew who publicly confessed that Jesus of Nazareth was Lord would be understood to ascribe the divine nature and attributes to him. Thus, the essence of the Christian faith was to acknowledge Jesus of Nazareth as the Yahweh of the Old Testament. Six, master, or despote, meaning the word connotes the idea of ownership, where Kyrios emphasizes authority and supremacy. Usage. God is addressed in prayer as despot by Simon, Peter, and those who with him. And the martyrs in heaven, twice Christ is called despot. Am I pronouncing that right?
Despot.
Despot. Okay, no. Despot. Father. One of the distinctive New Testament revelations is that God, as Father of individuals, whereas the word Father is used of God only 15 times in the Old Testament, it occurs 245 times of God in the New. As Father, he gives his children grace and peace, a regular salutation in the epistles, good gifts in James, and even commandments in John. We also addressed him as Father in prayer. To sum up, a name in the Bible, A name in the Bible times, a name in Bible times was more than an identification. It was a descriptive of its bearer, often revealing some characteristic of a person. O Lord, how majestic is thy name in all the earth. Okay, that's the end of that chapter. Ooh, the triunity of God. Ooh. God isn't real. He has to be real, because if God's not real, then nothing's real. What would make anything real then? What would be the ground of being? Science makes things real? No, it doesn't. Science just discovers truths that existed prior to science. If you think this is rage bait, then the truth must trigger you. Oh, Trey, well, that's a man-made comment, so I guess I don't have to listen to that comment since it comes from a man. I'm saying science requires Jesus. Without Jesus, you couldn't do science. Yeah, rage bait. Yeah, I guess the truth, does the truth make you upset? You don't like the truth? Oh, really? So, how do you get like patterns and order to study with the rational mind if there's no Jesus? Because where does the order come from? Kitty, hey. Oh no, now my cat wants to cuddle. Hi, Beeb. Good girl. Good girl. Oh, you like to cuddle.
Hello.
Welcome, neighbor.
Hi.
Hi.
So, number 4. I don't believe abortion is always child sacrifice.
Only on Thursdays.
I mean, whatever you want to like apply that to, but should I say the reason why, or?
I mean, it is. It's a ritual human sacrifice where you're sacrificing a preborn baby for like the woman's autonomy.
Yeah. Okay. So, would you say if a woman was her life was in danger, it would be wrong to have an abortion?
Well, I wouldn't really call that an abortion.
So, are you do you disagree with the idea that abortion is removing a fetus from the?
I say it's like the intentional unaliving of a preborn baby.
Yeah, but no matter what, if you're removing it while it's alive to help another person, that's going to be intentional no matter what. You can't. I don't think you can accidentally.
But the intention there isn't really to unalive the baby. The intention there is to save the mother.
Yeah, by unaliving the baby, the intention is to unalive the baby.
Okay. Well, I gave you this is the way I don't look at that as an abortion. So I mean,
Yeah. Oh, so what would you call an abortion?
the intentional unaliving of a preborn baby for like any reason that's not to save the mother's life.
Okay, so let's say let me give you a premise. Maybe you can go against it. You can abide with it. I'm about to see. Let's say if there's a child, and let's say if the child was gonna. Now that's not really a good premise, or whatever. But so then, like, let's say someone wants to have abortion because where they live is horrible. The baby's gonna suffer. The baby's gonna starve. Would you say it's wrong to have an abortion?
Yeah, because everyone suffers, and so like your standard would mean that like everyone should have an abortion. So stupid.
No, my standard is someone who just came out of the womb does not have the same morality or like the same what word can I use? Not IQ. What word can I use here? Or the same understanding that other people would. So let's say if a baby was to starve, no one could feed it, no one could help it out, or no one could not it, but no one could help the baby out, blah blah blah, and the baby was inevitably gonna be unalived without a base to even be alive in the first place. Would you say it is wrong?
Yes.
Under what basis?
Under the basis that the baby bears the image of God, and like you don't have the right to take the life of the baby.
Yeah. So do you think it's the image of God for a baby to starve?
What?
Do you think God's image is for a baby to starve and be unalive through starvation?
Yes.
Do you think God wants that?
Yes.
You think God wants a baby to starve and be unalive first because they were starved?
Yeah, he lets it happen.
What God do you believe in?
Jesus.
You believe Jesus wants a baby to be unalive by starvation?
Well, he lets it happen, doesn't he? It's part of his plan.
So him letting it happen doesn't mean it's part of his plan. That's so false. I know a lot of Christians like to go through that theology, but because let's say okay, let me give you this setting. Let's say if I have a plan and something else happens that has nothing to do with my plan, that doesn't mean it's a part of my plan. It's how things are. And for you to make the claim that it's a part of God's plan to let a baby to starve and be unalive because of their starvation, that's just like a sick mindset to have.
According to you.
No, according to the fact the Bible puts children in a high standard than anybody else. And when the Bible says be like children.
But in the Bible, it also says that suffering isn't bad. So you're inserting your arbitrary and backwards thinking human standard.
Yeah, okay, so number one, do you want the verse where it abides to the fact that children suffering is horrible, it's bad? I can give you the verse.
Yeah, I'm not letting. I already talked to you, Bunger. I'm probably gonna go back to bed. Keep running. Yeah, okay. Keep interrupting me and ignoring what I'm saying. Baby. Harrison, stop trying to pretend to be smart. Why don't you just be real? You're so inauthentic. Like, how do you sleep at night? You gotta be like based. Like, just be yourself. Like, you don't have to be smart. It's okay. Like, you don't have to lie to kick it, you know? Like, we'll be your friend if you're not like the smartest person or if you're a jerk. Just be real. Yeah, if you think it's bait, then the truth must trigger you. The objective proof for God? I objectively prove God all the time. It's easy because God's necessary. Specifically, Jesus is necessary for objective proof. There you go. Done. You're done. Jobs search. I made a sign that says the Bible's true. I can prove it. And I'm going to go to like, see if I can get real life conversations. I objectively prove God every day. You're crazy. What do you mean? What's the preconditions for knowledge that's not Jesus? Welcome, neighbor.
Hey, how's it going, brother?
Going well.
It's kind of slow tonight.
It's going well.
That's good. Hey, I know I've been on your lives before, and for the most part, I tend to agree with everything you share. I do want to ask you something though on a particular topic that's not even part of your prompt, so I don't know if you even want to give me an opportunity to ask you.
I mean, you can ask me. I don't know if I can answer though.
Right. What's your position on once saved, always saved? If you don't mind me asking.
I believe it's true, but like, I'm not like I got to study theology more. I'm not, take what I say with a grain of salt. So,
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I wanted to get your take on it because I mean, we've been on lives together before where we were debating the same on the same side, and I've actually I've actually enjoyed some of the input that you've given, and I was always curious what was your position on that. But that's it. That's it.
I did read one book where the author he said that he doesn't believe salvation belongs to us. Like, it's a gift we receive, but we never own it, and that salvation ultimately belongs to God. And so, I don't know. He thought that salvation is something that we like constantly work for throughout our whole lives, or not. Not like work for, but we are
Striving for.
um. Yeah, I don't know a good way to put it.
Yeah, because
I don't
then
want
the
to say
whole,
work.
the whole concept of it's
No, here's a good way to. Salvation is a process. How about that? It's a
yeah.
process
Okay.
that we like engage in throughout our life. Like, we're always going to be engaging with a relationship with God.
Yeah.
And there could be like ups and downs and stuff. Like any relationship.
Yeah, I have my issues with it. That's why I've been meaning to ask you,
Yeah.
and yeah, I have my issues with it. I'm not gonna debate scripture because I believe scripture is unrefutable, and it does teach and suggest that our things on salvation that are pretty clear. There's just a part that doesn't make sense to me, and I was just wondering what your
Well, you got to remember too that like even the prophets felt like God had abandoned them at times when He really didn't. So like sometimes maybe we feel lost, or sometimes we feel abandoned by God. But remember that the prophets felt like that too. So that's like
yeah
kind of normal.
yeah that's true.
So
Very true. I just wanted to ask you that, Morris. That's it.
okay, all right. Yeah,
Yep.
maybe we gotta do more reading. Maybe I can give you a better answer in the future.
For
Right?
sure. For sure. We'll chop it up next time, brother. Take it easy.
God bless. Yeah, I'm reading basic theology now. There's so much to read. There's so much to know about the Bible, though. It's like such a massive thing. Welcome.
Hey,
Hello.
I just had a question about the first one, the Christianity is an
Yeah.
objectively proven.
Yeah.
I just had a question on that. Why do you believe that?
Well, I read a book titled. I got a picture of the book. I can never find it. I read a book called The Objective Proof for Christianity. I read it twice just to make sure. It's
Okay,
got
I'll look into that. Sorry. Continue.
it's got an argument. Um, it's it's called a well. The idea is that because God makes things true, we have to argue God as a system of truth, and we would say that like only the Christian system of truth is coherent or works, right? Like none of the other any like human attempts to develop a system of truth ultimately will fail because they're ultimately based on human minds which are fallible. And so you need
Okay.
an infallible mind like God to be like a foundation for your system of truth, basically.
Okay, so I have a question. So this is from a part in the Bible. I can't remember where. I'm not big on Bible reading. I probably should be at this point in my life, but I'm not. There's a part in the Bible where it says that women are devoted to men and men alone, and that they should continue to follow that. Would you consider that true? It's in the Bible. I can't remember where exactly in the Bible. I would have to look at that.
The Bible doesn't say that. There's some. Are you talking about? There's like I do not give. I do not permit a woman authority to teach over a man or something like that.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that's the one I'm thinking about.
That's actually he's criticized. So some of the early Christians were saying like women couldn't teach, and Paul is saying that that's wrong. That women are equal. So like
Okay.
in society, men and women could have like maybe like men have a superior role in society, like the social world. See, like Christianity is not so much compared about as a Christian, like we don't really your social status doesn't matter so much in Christianity. What matters is your status with Jesus, and within the church, within I think within like we're all equal to Jesus. So
Okay.
it doesn't matter if
I have another question about the science. I can't read that full word. Is a concept?
it's a theistic concept, so it means like God is necessary for science.
So God is necessary for science. Okay.
If like you think of like there's two possible worlds. There's a world where God exists, and there's a world where God doesn't exist. There's no really other option. So
Mhm.
if we I would say if we're in the world where God does not exist, we couldn't even do science. So the very fact that science is possible means we're in the God world.
I have to think about that for my point of view.
Yeah, it has to do with like because science is like a study of like order and patterns in nature, but there wouldn't be order and patterns without like the mind of God to
Be there
intend.
to create that.
Yeah, that's like intention. There has to be intention to be a pattern. Like think about Legos. If you just like randomly assign Legos, there's no real pattern unless a mind intends there to be a pattern in the Legos.
Hmm. Okay, so number 4, the abortion is child sacrifice.
Hmm.
Where is that come into play?
Well, biologically, like scientifically, uh, human life starts at conception, and that's what I believe. Like humans bear the image of God, so even when you're like the Bible says God knows you in the womb, so God knows you as a person even when you're like a little cell in the womb.
Okay. So I'm assuming. Sorry if I'm wrong. That you are pro-life.
Yeah, I would say I'm an abolitionist. That I want to abolish abortion because I think that if we don't stop abortion, that America will be destroyed. But God will let America.
America is slowly being destroyed, as just from my point of view, because yeah. When it comes to you saying that abortion is that we need to get rid of abortion, what about in the small cases where it's sexual assault or the mother will die if she has this child?
Oh, we can't say that word, but like I would just say like if you're trying to save the life of the mother, then I wouldn't consider that an abortion. I think of abortion as like you're intentionally trying to unalive the preborn baby. If the intention is to save life and not take life, then I don't have an issue with that. Welcome, neighbor. Oh, your mic's like I can barely hear you. I can barely hear you. Sound like you're across the room from your mic. Kitty.
Okay, sorry. So, my question. So, what from science do you believe, and what do you not believe?
I just believe science up until it contradicts what the Bible says, and then I have to go with the Bible because that's the Word of God. So.
Okay, so like, just for example, science, that's kind of how we figured out stuff like gravity or, motion, anything like that. At what point does it contradict?
Well, so like I don't believe in evolution.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, that's fair. Um, you know, there are many gaps in the explanation that many scientists have given, and it's very hard to piece it all together. And I mean, from my standpoint, I believe that at one point humans were just kind of confused, and they invented something called religion, and that kind of eased their thoughts.
But this is just a psychological report. Like this isn't anything to do with whether something's true or false.
What do you mean?
You're just giving me a psychological report. That's not evidence of anything.
I'm just saying, but okay. But how would you say that Christianity is proven?
That it's necessary for proof. So, like, to prove things, we need standards, and the standards to prove things are going to be like arbitrarily decided by human minds, or the standards are going to be revealed by the mind of God.
Right. So, okay. What do you mean by there was no slavery in ancient Israel? Are you denying that Israelis were slaves for a very long time? Or that
Well,
Jews
they were slaves in Egypt, and there was times where they got like conquered by other nations. But like, I'm trying to push back because I think there's deconstruction atheists on TikTok that want because they can't rationally deny the Bible, so they make up lies and be like, "Oh, your God likes slavery and all this stuff," and that's just not true. So I'm trying to like show that the reason we think slavery is wrong is because we get that value from the Christian God.
Well, I think that any moral person, religious or not, can see that slavery is wrong.
Well, no, because before Christianity, people thought slavery was like natural. They didn't think it was wrong.
No, I think in the 1700s, 1600s, all of those years, there was slavery, and they were Christians.
You're wrong.
Oh, were you alive then?
Well, the slaves were Christians, and the slaves. So when they were escaping on the Underground Railroad, they sang about like Moses. They didn't sing about Reddit atheism because the slaves themselves were Christian, and they saw the slave owning people wouldn't let the Christian missionaries want to go convert the slaves, and the slave owners tried to prevent them from being converted because they were afraid that would start a rebellion because the powerful message of freedom in Scripture.
That just completely avoided what you said, though.
You're completely ignorant. You're just really ignorant and sound like you're hateful. Do you just hate God or something? Like, what's going on here?
Okay, well, if you would let me finish. So you were just saying that there was no Christianity at that time.
What are you talking about?
I asked, oh my God. This was first about the fucking slavery in ancient Israel, and you were saying that there was no Christianity during the times of slavery. After I had said that anyone who is morally right in the head would know that slavery is wrong.
That's not true. That's a lie because like it was only Christians who said slavery was wrong. No one else said that. Everyone thought it was normal before Christians.
I don't know because there have been many times that I've read about these slave owners, and they are Christian, and they were preventing their slaves from getting their religion, like you said, to prevent a rebellion.
Well, they were Christian in name only because like they weren't doing what. If they were actually Christian, they wouldn't be slave owners because that's wrong.
Yeah, I know that. But, you know, there are many hypocrites that do things that go against their beliefs. And at that time, it was the norm. And
Because of
people.
science.
What are you on about? I haven't.
Because of
What?
science. Because people believed in that racism because of science.
Because they believed in
Scientific.
racism because of science. So you're saying that
Yeah.
science is the cause of racism?
Yeah, scientific racism because they believed that like certain people weren't evolved, like we're like white people were more evolved or something. That's what they thought, which is obviously not true. So they used evolution as an excuse to like, you know,
As an excuse to what?
be racist.
To be racist, right?
Yeah.
But God,
Yeah, it's awful.
you do realize that, you know, there are people like this will be a pretty controversial example, but like someone like Trump is a quote Christian who is also a hateful racist.
I
You
wouldn't.
know,
I don't think he's a Christian, and I don't think he's a racist. He is hateful, though.
he sells Bibles and
Yeah.
people eat it up for breakfast.
Well, but he also said that he doesn't ever repented or asked for forgiveness. So how can he be a Christian?
Well, his supporters sure seem to think so.
I don't know any.
Does that disqualify that? Oh my fucking god! Just do your research, dude. People like you are the actual reason why our world is so fucked.
Yeah, what book are you reading right now? Oh, and he runs away. See, this is what happens when you don't read, guys. And you don't know history, and you don't know anything. And you just get mad. The atheists hate reading and stuff. Welcome, neighbor.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me well? Is like
Yes.
Okay. So with the last person that you debated with, you said that, well, actually I'm not exactly sure what you said, but you said that science was the cause of racism.
Yes.
Which why do you believe that?
Because they started believing in these things like what evolution and there's something called phrenology where they believe based on skull shape or skull size, like you're a lesser or better person, like eugenics and all this stuff.
Okay, and I'm pretty sure that you said that you also said, well, this was sorry. You also said that people believed that white people were more superior because they were more like evolved than darker skinned people.
Correct.
Now, I feel like at least from doesn't necessarily make sense because in evolution, I also heard earlier you don't believe in evolution, but
Oh, it's racist.
in evolution, like when I'm not really sure what like I guess Homo sapiens or like humans I guess were actually originated from, but I'm pretty sure their skin tones were darker even like before they evolved into being a whiter skin tone, or well, not whiter, but like
Look,
more.
I'm
like
not saying that I think their science is dumb. I'm just saying like scientific racism is a thing, and that's where people were being racist. They thought, "Oh, we're so smarter than these people because they're primitive. They don't have technology. We have steam engine. We're better. We're more evolved. More progress."
Didn't they? Okay, so in I don't remember what year I don't remember what year the Civil War was, which is kind of bad, but when that happened, when like slavery was very popularized in America and in like the South and stuff, and when like darker people, like black people, were brought into America for like slaves and slave trade. Wait, I kind of just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, I've never debated with someone before.
Never?
No. Well, not really. But, so during, like, slave trade and... I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Give me a minute to collect my thoughts.
That all started with, like, Islam. So, like, Islam invaded Africa with armies, and they colonized and set up slave markets. And then Europeans would, what was it, like, Europeans would go there and, like, yeah, they would buy from the Muslims. And then Christian abolitionism started in, like, the United Kingdom, and they're like, this is wrong, and they ended slavery in the United Kingdom, and then the Christian abolitionists started to. It was actually like before, so there was a period after the Enlightenment where Christianity wasn't really popular, and that's when slavery started to like get popular. It's because people were being more scientific minded. But then there was like a resurgence back to Christianity and then abolitionism. And it was because of Christianity that they ended slavery in the United Kingdom. And then they're like, this isn't good enough. And they went and like started trying to end slavery all over the world. It was Christians who did this. And slavery all over the world. It was Christians who did this.
Okay. Okay. I don't really want to talk about this topic anymore because I'm not very educated on it. Okay. I don't really want to talk about this topic anymore because I'm not very educated on it. But can you bring up, because I forget what your 5 points were I forget what your 5 points, like original argument points were when you had it on the screen. So can you like bring that back up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Flip the screen. I messed this up.
Okay, so why...
Bro, gee, what is with your profile picture?
What do you mean?
The person is something up. I can't invite that person. My profile picture is screwed up.
What?
No. A pew pew up to his head. Oh, it's the phone. Oh. Is that real? Probably is.
Why do you think Christianity is objectively proven?
Because I think to even like say Jesus doesn't exist, you would have to use standards of truth, and those standards would come from Jesus. So it'd be like a contradiction.
Okay, but okay, why do you think Jesus is real? Like what proof do you have on that?
That
Like,
so like think about the source of existence, right? Do you believe there's a source of existence? Do you believe there's a source of existence?
I mean, like, are you like saying, like, not saying that this is the source of existence, but like say the Big Bang or something? Like, are you saying?
I'm saying things exist. So like sunlight exists. So for sunlight to exist, sunlight has a source. So that's the sun.
Sunlight comes from the sun. I don't know.
Right. So it's like, but existence itself, for anything to exist, you would think existence. There has to be a source of existence. So when we ask like, what's the source of existence? So when we ask like, what's the source of existence, there's no way to know it. Science can't tell us that, right? And logic and reason can't tell us the source of existence. So I'm saying, unless the source of existence is a person who speaks to us, we could never know it. And if we never know like the source, we don't have a foundation. Without a foundation, then we're left with like saying things are true without a foundation, which doesn't make, it's like a contradiction.
Okay, so, well, are you saying that there's just no source of existence? Or are you saying God is the source of existence?
I'm saying only Jesus makes sense as the source of existence. So he's necessary because of his attributes. So if you deny that and say say I don't know, or you say some other God or anything else, will deny one of them or the necessary attributes.
Okay, but so you're saying that Jesus or God is the only, like, it's the only source of existence that would make sense, but you also don't know that it is true. So you're pretty much, you're proving the point that you're going against in a sense.
No, I'm saying it's necessary, right? Like
No, because it doesn't make sense, because it's not, you don't know if it's true or not. You believe this because of things that you read and things, and your belief, your opinion, your feelings
It's
towards things.
true. We know it's true because it's necessary to say anything is true, and if you deny it, now you can't say anything is true, so that's a contradiction.
Then are you saying that people that don't believe in Jesus just think that nothing else is true at all because there's no original origin for anything to come from?
Okay, so if you make a truth claim, I can give you like 1,000,000 defeaters for your truth claim because you can't defeat skepticism. So if I make a truth claim, I can defeat. My truth claim is supported by Jesus as a foundation, so I can defeat your skeptical arguments. So that's the difference. So that's the proof. Is that without Jesus, you can't defeat skepticism. See?
Yes, I understand what you're saying, but okay, so I don't believe in God. Well, actually, I don't necessarily have an opinion on any sort of religion. I don't believe in any God, but I also think there's a possibility that, I don't know. Okay, I'm trying to like find what I'm trying to say. Okay, whatever.
You're going to hell. Welcome, neighbor.
Hey.
Hi.
How is atheism irrational?
Because it denies the source of rationality itself.
In what way?
Like, you'd have to say, if atheism is true, you'd have to say, like, my reasoning is self-validating, and that's, like, circular and arbitrary. So we need, like, God as an objective reference point to validate human reasoning.
Alright, how is abortion child sacrifice?
Because it's like a ritual sacrifice of a preborn baby to the woman's, like, autonomy.
How is it a ritual?
Because you do it the same way, like washing your hands is a ritual. Or repeat it, you just do it the same way over and over.
So, are you saying anything repeated is evil?
No, it's just a ritual. So it's just a ritual human sacrifice.
How is it a human sacrifice? What are they sacrificing the child to?
The woman's autonomy. So like you make the woman God or false idol.
How are they idolizing or worshiping the woman in any way?
Because they're sacrificing a baby to it.
They're not sacrificing it to it.
Yes, they are.
All they're doing is
woman's autonomy.
I believe is wrong, but it's still not idolizing the woman in any way.
You give up one thing for another thing, right? So they give up the baby for the right to choose.
So they're idolizing the right to choose, not the woman.
Yeah. Well, I would say that. I would say like when you reject God, you kind of make yourself God. Like you become a little God. So they're kind of treating the woman as if she's like a god or something.
Yeah, I agree with that, but there's been plenty of Christians who have had abortions before.
Yeah, and they'll burn in hell for that if they don't repent.
So does that make them not Christian?
Yeah, it does. Hey, Penguin. I woke up early. I'm going back to bed, I think. You're going to hell.
And how does that make you not Christian?
Because like if I go around hurting people, obviously I'm not a Christian because Christians are supposed to love everyone and love does no harm to a neighbor.
But as a Christian, I'm imperfect.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do evil every day.
Yeah, but
that doesn't make me not a Christian though.
Well, but if you you don't have to be perfect, but you can't commit to a lifestyle of sin. That's not repenting. Repenting is when you try to change, like you do your best to you realize what you did is wrong and that's like not who you are, and then you try to change your behavior.
So if you give your life to God and you repent of all your sin and later on that week you have an abortion, then what does that mean?
It means you're not repenting.
How are you not repenting? You could repent and still fall to your sin. What? So just because you fall to the same sin doesn't mean, or it means that you're not repenting just because you fell to the sin again?
It's about a lifestyle. You can't commit to a lifestyle of sin. You have to commit to a lifestyle of Jesus.
That doesn't mean you're going to be perfect though.
True, but you're not going to like intentionally go around like hurting people.
Some people do though. Some people have, a lot of Christians have anger management issues, and sometimes sometimes during the day they're gonna go around intentionally hurting someone else because of those anger issues. That doesn't make them not Christian.
Why do you want to go to hell when you could just like believe in Jesus and be saved?
I don't want to go to hell. I just got baptized like a week ago, but I feel like some of your takes are a little bit irrational.